Thanks for joining me. This is Independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator Teresa Harper, and I am located in Oregon in the United States. We have a box for you tonight, and we are going to be using Impressions Abloom, which I've been using all week. If you didn't see my video from yesterday, check that out. And I wanted to make something a little bit different today, and I thought, what can I make? And I had these little Harry Potter fudge stripe butterbeer mini cookies from Keebler. I wanted to make a box for those, but I thought, how can I make Impressions Abloom work for a box for these? And then I thought, wait a minute, milk makes cows make milk and cream to make the butter. Let's do that. So I checked to see that the Cutest Cows that are on the last chance list were still in stock, and they are. Both the punch and the stamp set are on the last chance list. Both of them are marked down from $24 to $16.80. That's a pretty good savings. So if you haven't already picked those up, go ahead and do that now while they're so inexpensive. Okay, so let's go ahead and see who's on. And let's open the chat and see what we have. Hello, Tracy. Thanks so much for jumping on. Oh, not only that, thanks so much for waking me up from my nap so I could get on. Okay, so we're going to mishmash together some brand new product with the old product, the Cutest Cows. Like I said, this is on the last chance and at a good discount. Both of those were in stock last night when I checked. I did not check right before I went live, but I'm assuming they're still there. And they are. So there we go. All right. So this is the box that we're going to be making tonight, although we are going to do a different background. This particular background I stamped with the new stripes and dots stamp set. And we'll be working with that at a later time. But I thought I wanted to try something a little bit easier to go along with the box tonight. And I couldn't decide for sure what the background should be. So this is the one I made ahead of time. And there's our little butterbeer cookies. And then we're going to make a different version tonight using some designer series paper that's brand new out. So let's set these aside. And hello, Laura. And let's get started because this is going to take a little bit of time to put together. There's quite a bit of stamping, some masking, some box making. This is the color palette tonight. Let's get the Daffodil Delight so you can see it. That we're going to be using. We'll be using the pinks mostly for flowers, the yellows for flowers. Basic gray is for stamping some images. Secret C is for flower centers along with cloud cover. And Granny Apple Green and Cloud Cover will be our background scene colors. So let's start with let's get out our pieces. We're going to use a piece of designer series paper. This particular piece of paper surprised me. I did not realize that it was in this stack. I grabbed the 25 to 27 in color 6x6 designer series paper stack when I was ordering, just to see what they had for patterns this year. Because originally I thought, oh, those aren't very, very cool. But wow, when you see them in person, they're a lot nicer than they appeared in the catalog. So you get 40 sheets, I think, and you get 5 each of the colors. So we've got Timid Tiger and Secret Sea, and each pattern's the same, or each color has the same patterns. And then you'll get to the second pattern, and that is this one that has this beautiful background that you can use for anything, and then it has flowers on the other side. And of course, those come in all the colors too. So we're going to be using the strawberry slush and this background on our box today. Okay, and those particular patterns you can get in each of our color collections. So not only can you get the 25 to 27 in colors, you can get the 24 to 26 in colors, along with the subtles, brights, regals, and neutrals. Okay, so we've got that, and this particular piece is cut at 4 1/4 by 5. Okay, and then let's see, I've cut from basic white, I've cut one of the ovals from the Impressions Abloom, and that's this one, the one without the stitching. Okay, so that, just so you know what size that is. And then we've got a little bit of basic black, and this is for a sentiment. I've got a scrap piece of white, and this particular piece of scrap white I cut from the Bright Skies. Also, these dies are on the last chance list. The stamp set is no longer available, but the dies still are. And I've taken this particular stamp and I just cut a piece of basic white or scrap white, whatever white you have, actually anything you have, to use for a mask. Okay, and that is a really nice set of dies. Again, this started at $34. It's down to $13.60. You've got raindrops, clouds, you've got these fantastic border dies, sunshine, flowers, lightning bolt. There's another flower with a leaf stem. You can do a lot with that without a stamp set. It's a really good wingman, what we like to call a wingman stamp set. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with our ink blending. I'm going to grab a piece of scrap paper because the scrap paper that I had earlier, I actually wrote all the measurements on when I made the box. So I need that for my measurements. So let's go ahead. We're going to put this down, and we're going to start with the Granny Apple Green ink. And we're going to take a blending brush. And we're going to roll on some ink here. And I don't care if it's even because grass colors are not even. You get lights and darks in your colors. And that's intentional. And then we're going to take some of the cloud cover ink. Now, cloud cover ink, you couldn't purchase a separate ink pad, but you were able to purchase an ink refill. And so I've taken my ink refill and I took an uninked stamping spot. These are also available. And I inked up one of those ink spots. I also took the uninked craft white ink pad. I purchased that. It comes uninked and it also comes with a bottle of reinker for white. I took that, washed it out, and then I added reinker to it to make my own cloud cover ink pad. So that is an option if you're looking for cloud cover ink and looking for ideas on how to get around not having a full-size pad. Okay, so Stampin' Up! Had said that they weren't offering the full-size pad because they had a chemical reaction between the foam and the ink. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and buy that pad, that uninked one. I'll scrub it up with some Dawn dish soap, let it dry out really well, and then ink it up and see how it goes. So this is what we have now. We've got our, I forgot to use my, gosh darn it, I got to chit-chatting and I didn't do this. So let's do it. We'll end up with a little bit darker sky, but it's okay. This is what I meant to do, was to take my little clouds here and put some clouds in the sky. That's what I was supposed to be doing if I was not chit-chatting about the cloud cover ink. Just to make it look like it was a little cloudy sky day. Okay, there we go. Now we've got our clouds. And the next thing that we need to add to this is our grass. So we're going to take the little grass stamp that comes in Cutest Cows and some Granny Apple ink. And we're just going to stamp randomly some grass here. All right, there we go. So this piece is ready and we're going to set that aside until we need it again. Okay, and we're going to bring in our chamois from our glass mat and get rid of that ink. Let's get that put away. All right, so the next thing we need to do is we need to stamp and die cut some flowers. And I just have some scraps here, literally scraps. And let's take our basic gray. And here we're going to stamp the little chicken in basic gray. And I'm also going to stamp the milk can. Now you know I have a bunch of little scraps here. Okay, so we've got those. And then, let's see, let's grab our cow. And we're going to use basic black ink for that. And I've got the female cow, the one with the udder, and I did that on purpose. Let's see, I'm going to do this over here. Got that, and then I need my cow head. And I'll stamp this over here. Okay, now before we go too much further, let's go ahead and punch out our cow head. And I'm going to bring that cow head right down to the bottom of my punch there. I'm going to leave more white space at the top than I do at the bottom. And I'm doing that on purpose. This is just to help me not have to fussy cut so much, because I have to fussy cut the cow's body. And so I'm just going to trim this up a bit, because when I fussy cut, I tend to cut a lot closer. So we're just going to trim that out, and then that'll be good. Okay, so we've got that. Now we need to stamp some flowers. So let's move these out of the way. I need to bring back that cloud cover ink because I'm going to need it again. Okay, let's start with crushed curry and Daffodil Delight. We're going to take the large detailed flower from Impressions Abloom, and we're going to hope this fits on here, which doesn't look like it's going to. Let me grab a bigger piece of cardstock here, because I should have used the smaller one for my cow. I should have used the smaller one, and then I would have plenty. Okay, there we go. We've got it. I have lots of scraps. Okay, so I'm going to start with crushed curry. And I'm going to do that detail on the large one, and then I'm going to do a small one on the detail in the crushed curry. Okay. And then we're going to move to Daffodil Delight. And we're going to take the open flower here and line that up with Daffodil Delight, and I'm stamping full strength over my crushed curry. And I'm going to do the same thing with the small flower. Okay. And then we're going to move to Pretty in Pink and Strawberry Slush. Let's get all of these little pieces out of the way here. All right. So for this one, we're going to take the medium-sized flower. And we're going to stamp the detail in Strawberry Slush. And the outer part, well, let's see, I need to find that right there. This is where this is how this is going. Nope, this needs to go like this. Okay, this should just be lined up perfectly the way I had it. Okay, hang on. Boop. Boop. Okay. I want to get this figured. I had it so it should go either way, right on the thing. Oh my goodness. There we go. I knew it should go right. Pretty easy. I try to put them on the stamp block in the same direction so they're easy to figure out. And then my brain doesn't always function. Okay, so there we go. So that's that. Now, for all of the centers, we're going to take our cloud cover ink. We're going to take the small full and put that in the center of the Daffodil Delight and the Strawberry Slush. And then we're going to take the larger one in cloud cover and put in the Daffodil Delight, the large one. And then to finish those all off, we're going to take Secret C and go back with the coordinating detailed stamp for each one. And put that in. Okay, so that's all of our flowers. That should be actually all of our stamping, except for our sentiment. Let's go ahead and do that while we're stamping. And for that, we need Versamark ink. We need a piece of basic black cardstock. And we're going to need some white embossing powder. So let's bring in our embossing additions tray. Take our embossing buddy. And then we're going to take the sentiment, "What's Moo with You," from the Cutest Cows. We're going to ink that up in Versamark. And we're going to just set that down on there. I'm not really pressing, I'm just setting it down gently because the stamp will distort. And then you'll get the A filled in on your wets if you push too hard. Okay, so let's go ahead and put on our embossing powder here. Whoa. All right, let's try that again. All right. I like to use coffee filters in my embossing tray. It's so much easier to just dump it in there, but I need the tray to keep everything together and hold it when it's doing its thing here. I'm going to take a small little paintbrush. The embossing additions tray comes with a large paintbrush, and sometimes that works great, and other times it just doesn't. When you want to get in real close to your sentiment there. Okay, so we've got that. Now let's heat up our heat tool. Get that all heated up. And then we'll melt this. This is what hooked me on stamping. It's so magical. Only takes a minute to heat that up, and now we've got that wonderful sentiment. Okay, so there's a little bit of coloring to do, but to save some time, I've already done it all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I did for the inks, and then I'll bring in the pieces so you can see what the finished pieces look like. Okay, so these are our colors that I used. Make sure you can see that. Yes, Tracy, I agree. It is a great bundle in your collection and definitely a great deal on the last chance. If somebody doesn't already have it, that is an amazing find. Okay, so we have, here's our cow. I used basic black on his hooves and his spots and light petal pink on the udder. Did the same thing for his head, basic black and the light petal pink. Then we have the little chick for him. I used Darling Duckling along the edge here, the Darling Duckling blend, and then light Daffodil Delight to fill in the rest of it. Dark strawberry slush on the comb and the wattle. And then I used the light peach pie on his beak. Okay. For the milk can, I use light and dark cloud cover. Okay. So we've got that, and that's right here. And I fussy cut all of those out because these do not have dies. With the punch, you can punch the head, but this particular body goes the wrong direction for the punch. Because when you look at the punch, oh, yeah, it just doesn't fit. It's not meant to go that way. And actually, when you punch it, you have to punch it in the opposite direction. So, all right. Still a great deal when you want the other body. Plus, you can make a cow without stamping with just the punch. Okay, so let's get these things out of our way because we've got those ready to go. I took ahead of time and cut out those flowers. And when I cut the flowers, I took that Impressions Abloom. And if you watched my video on Tuesday live or yesterday, the replay here on YouTube, you saw that I had taken all the flowers. There's two pieces that you can use, and I've put them together, and then I just put those over my stamped images and cut them out. So I basically took that together, made sure that I had color in all of those edges, taped it down and run it through. And when I finish, then I have this. And I did that with all of the flowers, okay? While I was die cutting, I also took this particular die cut and I die cut out a leaf in Granny Apple Green, okay? And I die cut my sentiment using this die from the Meant to Be stamps. Okay, and I've got those dies right here. So the Meant to Be stamps can be purchased in a bundle with the Meant to Be stamp set. These are actually supposed to be bee bodies. And I took the smallest one and I've cut out the sentiment with that to make it look like a speech bubble. Okay? All right, so those are our pieces that we need to add to our box. So let's go ahead, we'll set these aside and let's make that box. And then we'll put this together. Okay, let me put these pieces up here and get that ink pen out of the way and get our measurements. And here we are. You need a 12 by 12 piece of paper to do this. I couldn't make this work without doing it that way. Well, that's not really true. I guess I could have. One of the boxes that I made, no, I think I used, yeah, this was 7.5 by 12. So I couldn't make it work. I tried, but it doesn't work. So we have a piece of cardstock here that is 8 1/4 inches. So 8 1/4 inches by 12. On the 8 1/4 inch side, we're going to score this at 3/4 and 1.5 on each end. So 3/4, 1.5, then we flip it and do 3/4, 1.5. And then we're going to flip it to the 12-inch side. And here we're going to score it at 3/4, 1.5, 6, 6 3/4, and 11 1/4. Okay, so again, that's 3/4, 1.5, 6, 6 3/4, and 11 1/4. And what this is going to give us is a reinforced front and side box. Okay. So let's go ahead and fold and burnish on all of our score lines. Yeah, I hadn't used those bee bodies for a speech bubble, and then I thought, I really want that cow to be saying, "What's moo with you?" So let's go ahead and see if that bee body will work. And it barely fit, but it fit the way I wanted it to fit. So I did originally try cutting it out with More Messages die. There is a die in the More Messages single die. And I'm not sure where I put that, where I had embossed and cut in just the oval. And that was good. But then I thought, oh, wait a minute. I've got those meant to be dies. Let's see if the bee body will work. So ultimately, that's what I ended up using. Okay, so we're fold and burnished on all of the score lines. Now this end here that has the 2 3/4 inch, this is the front of our box. And this end down here is going to be our box top. Okay, it's very important that you know that when you're trimming. So we're going to cut on this side. We're going to cut up to the second score line in on these score lines. Okay, because this is going to be our reinforced flap, we can angle cut this a little bit and cut off those 2 pieces. Then we're going to remove this piece so that we have a tab, a glue tab. Okay, so you're removing the 3 outer corners. So let's do that again. We're going to cut at an angle on the long rectangle, and then we're going to cut. Oh, don't do that. We need to go this way. Whew, I almost messed that up. I'm going to cut this way and remove those. It will glue the other way, it's just not as nice. And your tabs, yeah, it just doesn't hold as well. So do it this way. And then we're going to cut up again in the center on these score lines to the second horizontal score. And again, we need to remove this because this is going to be our glue tab. So let's move that out of the way and cut that off. This does not matter how pretty it looks. Trust me, you're going to fold it inside and nobody's going to see it. So we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. I'm going to fold those in and remove that tab. Okay. So again, this is going to be our glue tab, or our reinforced side. So we can angle cut if you choose. You don't have to. It will still fold in. It just makes it fold in a little bit easier, but only on that, only to the first score line. Okay. So we've got that. So this essentially is the bottom of our box. Now, we need to remove any score line here that you see. So I'm just going to remove that score line. And then I'm going to angle cut toward the top of the box. Okay. So again here, this is the bottom of the box. I'm going to remove the score line. And this is the top of the box. I'm going to angle toward the top. Okay. Now, we need to remove these 2 corners on the top piece. So let's go ahead and cut those out. And remove them. All right. Now we don't need these two outer long rectangles. They're just going to be in our way and they can't fold inside the box. So we're going to remove those completely. And I'm just going to cut those away. And the tabs, these long rectangles that are left behind are going to fold inside the top of our box. Okay. So again, I'm going to remove that outer rectangle. And that is all the, oh, no, it isn't, because we need to angle cut. I didn't take this off. I need to take that and angle cut this toward the outer edge. Remove that score line over here and angle cut toward the outer edge. That's just going to make our box fold up nicely and remove any excess bulk. Okay, so again, this is the top of our box. So let's make sure that we can remind ourselves of that. We're going to round the corner of the top of this box so that it will fold in nicely. So any corner rounder that you have, I didn't get that quite into the corner the way I should have, I think. There we go. And then we'll do the same thing on this side. Just take that corner and stick it in that punch. Oh, there we go. All right. So we're done with the top of our box, except for, in order for this to fold in, we need to give this a little bit of an angle cut toward the tuck tab. So we're going to angle cut toward the tuck tab there, and then that should fold nicely into our box. All right, let's take some tear and tape. We don't want our box to fall together or fall apart. We're going to put tear and tape on these 3 outer rectangles at the edge. Okay, and this is going to fold in and reinforce the front and the sides of our box. And I thought about leaving this off because I'm using black cardstock, and I thought, oh, if I leave that off, can I do it on a 8.5 by 11 inch piece of paper? And the answer was no, because without this reinforced edge, I was still at 11.25 inches from here to that last score there. So I couldn't make it work, but man, I tried. Okay, now this is just going to reinforce our box, but these 2 pieces are also going to hold in these tabs. So what I'm going to do, I don't need to worry about how strong these tabs are. So I'm going to just take my Stampin' Seal and I'm going to put some glue on the outside of these tabs. You could use liquid glue, whatever glue you want to use. Come on. And I'm just going to glue those with my regular Stampin' Seal. Because like I say, it doesn't really matter. Okay, I'm going to lift those tabs up a bit so they don't stick to my table, because I like to do all of my tape at once. And if you have trouble getting the wax paper backing, the liner off of this, make sure you burnish it down, and then it'll lift right off. Okay, I like to start with the back of the box. This is the top, and this is going to be the back of the box. So I'm going to bring this up and take the cut piece to the score line, the cut piece to the score line. Okay, I've got a little bit of excess adhesive there. And then I'm going to move to the front and I'm going to do the same thing. Cut piece to the score line, cut piece to the score line, and make a nice angle. Then I'm going to fold in the front of my box. Oh, make sure that's sticking nice there. And then fold in the sides of my box and the side of my box here. Okay? Then I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm going to give everything a good burnish so that that tape holds on all three sides. Okay? And there is our box. Here's our cookies. They're going to fit perfectly in there, but I do not want to put those in at the moment because I'm going to flip this up like this so that I can work on a flat surface. So I'm going to take my designer series paper and that's going to go on here. And again, that designer series paper is 4 1/4 by 5. And if you're using a directional paper, it needs to be in landscape, meaning that you want the 5-inch side or the 4 1/4 inch side in the up and down pattern so that the pattern is up and down. Okay, so we've got that. Now let's take our piece here. And I'm going to move this down toward the bottom. Bring in all my little pieces here. I can do that up. I'm going to put this on flat. You could pop it up if you wanted. It is a 3D project, so it doesn't matter how high you go, because you're probably not going to mail it anyway. Let's put this a little bit lower toward the bottom than the top. I want to make sure I've got plenty of room for my sentiment. So I'm going to put that down. And next I'm going to put this in here, kind of like this. So I'm going to set these in here where I want them so I can gauge where to put my cow. Okay. And that's basically how those are going to go. Take a little bit of liquid glue, put up here on this section of the cow that they've left open with the stamp so you know where to glue. And then we're just going to stick his head kind of like that. All right, so now we've got our cow. And we're going to stick him, or her, I guess, because she's got the udder, about right here. I like to lay out my pieces before I start gluing. That way, if I need to adjust, I can. And my little chickie's going to go right up here on my milk can with my What's Moo with You about right there. All right, so we're good. Let's start. For my cow, I'm going to take a Stampin' Dimensional and I'm going to stick one on his head. And then I'm going to put some Stampin' Seal on his body. I want him to look like he's got his head lifted a bit. So let's go ahead and put our little cow right there. Now for our flower, or for our flowers with the stem, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue here on each little flower, like so, and that's going to be enough to hold that. Okay. And then we'll add this right here like so. And then again, we're going to take dimensionals, and I am at the very end of my dimensionals here. So I'm just going to take some dimensionals. I'm going to stick one in the center here. Turn these over. Dimensional and dimensional. Let's put our large flower on first, like so. Then we'll move to our medium pink flower. Put that on. And we've got our yellow flower. We'll move that down here just a bit to put that on. Take a tiny bit of liquid glue here and put on the chickie's feet. Add our chicken to our milk can, and then we're going to flip that over. And we're going to add some dimensionals to that too, because why not? Might as well pop him up and make him stand out. And then we'll put, oops, put this right over here so it looks kind of like the chicken, the cow we're talking here. And finally, we have our sentiment here. And again, I'm going to put this on. Let's put our dimensional this way. There we go. And then we're just going to stick this right up there. What's moo with you? And to finish this off, we need a bow. And don't tell me I didn't leave the baker's twine out. So let's grab that out of our little container here. I'm going to use some baker's twine from the Baker's Twine Essentials pack. This comes with vanilla, crumb cake, white, gray granite, and black. And let's grab our bow jig. And see if we can make a decent bow here. Sometimes I struggle a little with baker's twine, getting it to lay just so. But usually with the bow jig, I don't have as much trouble. So let's go ahead and cut that off. Set that aside. Take our bow and the glue dot. Lay our knot right on our glue dot there. Grab the scissors. And I'm going to put this right down here at the base of our flower. And finally, we need to add some gems. So let's take the new Strawberry Slush and Pretty in Pink gems. And I'm going to take the the lighter colored. I did originally, and maybe I should. Yeah, I think these are not going to stand out the way I want them to. Okay, so we're going to take from the Impressions Abloom. I've already pre-cut some little flowers here. You get 2 of these dies that cut out the little pink or the little flowers, and each die cuts out 3 at a time. So let me show you those in case you missed those. And what I did with mine, I taped my 2 together. That way I didn't have such tiny little dies. So they come like this, 2 of them, and I just took and lined them up like this and stuck them together so I have one bigger die. I figured that would be a little bit easier than worrying about losing them. So before we put these on, we are going to go ahead and wink them up. Well, we are if we can get this one to stay the right direction. Come on, turn over. It's being a stubborn one. All right, there we go. Just put a little bit of wink on those. That'll give it a little bit of sparkle, but I don't think that this will blend in as much as those little gems did. I guess we'll find out in a minute. All right. So again, we're going to put these on with glue dots. And I didn't put my glue dots back in their spot. So of course now I don't know where I set them down at. Gosh darn it. Does anybody see the glue dots? Where did I put those? Oh my. Oh my. How did I lose my glue dots? All right. Well, you know what? That was almost empty anyway. We don't have time to spend looking for them. And of course, now that I'm opening a brand new box, they will show right up because that's the way it works. Okay, so they don't want to get left behind, but they're going to tonight because I didn't put them back where they belong. Ooh, that one almost ran away. Oh, there they are. Of course. What did I tell you? All right, so we've got one. I'm going to put one up here on my sentiment. And I'm going to put one down here. And we're going to put one up here. Yep, we'll put it up there. All right, I think those are going to stand out much better than those little pink gems were. Oh, we're getting lost. All right, so there is our project. I hope you like that, my mishmash of old and new. Here is the one we made tonight. Here is my sample made with the stripes and dots for the background. And tell me which one you prefer. Ah, good. Thanks, you guys. I'm glad you love it. I had so much fun with these, trying to put it all together and come up with something clever for that little butterbeer cookies. And of course, I love those little cows. I'm so sorry to see them go, but I have had some fun with them. And anyway, all right, everybody. I will see you again next week. Not on Thursday, though, for YouTube Live because Caleb has his district track meet in Newburgh, and I have no idea what time I'll be, how long I'll be there, what time I'll be home. I don't know any of that. So we're just going to say we're not doing it, and I'll catch you again the following week. But you can watch me on Tuesday night at 7 on Facebook, and then I'll have the replay on YouTube on Wednesday morning. All right, everybody. Have a great week. Happy stamping. Bye-bye.